Katarzyna Smętek. Thank you very much for joining us. President of the Youth Climate Council in Poland. And the Polish Youth Climate Council has initiated the consultation process of the strategic document regarding the energy transition in Poland, Polish energy policy until 2040. So, Katarzyna, the floor is yours, and we look forward to having an insightful discussion with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm the president of Polish Youth Climate Council, and a few months ago we started the project, as you said, the consultation directed to young people that are focusing on the very strategic documents. So the main document on energy transition and the future of energy in Poland, called Polish Energy Policy to 2040. And the document is a very specific set of goals, information, how Poland will develop its energy mix, how we'll develop our strategy towards energy transition, and how it will look like. And as the Youth Climate Council, we are the advisory body to the Ministry of Climate and Environment. So there wasn't any opportunity not to engage in the document. So we are ready to actually take over and also give our feedback if the document is ambitious enough and how we would like to maybe improve it, maybe develop it, and what it would be necessary to be added in the document, as well as provide the feedback from young people to make sure that our voice is represented there as well. So a few months ago, we started a call for various groups, which is very interesting because there are scientific specific groups. So it is not only young people, but it is directed to young people who are involved in energy sectors. So it can be people who are working as young specialists in the energy sector. It can be students that are working in the sector of energy transition, but it can be also people who are developing, for example, their skills in student associations regarding energy. But as the energy transition is a very broad topic, we wanted to get people who are interested in the topic, but also at the same time they are already somehow experts in the field. Not to make it very general, not to make it very vague, because we want to actually have a very concrete result of the consultation. So 80 people have been registered, and now they are working with the Polish Youth Climate Council on this consultation process. And we divided them into 8 thematic groups. Each thematic group will have the opportunity to focus on one very specific topic, and among the topics are, of course, how to develop advocacy towards energy transition, how to achieve net zero emission goal in 2050, as Poland is located in Europe, and Europe have set a very ambitious goal to actually be climate neutral in 2050. But we also wanted to make it even more ambitious to achieve net zero emissions. Another theme is how to do it with nuclear energy involved and how to do it without. So to have 2 different scenarios and how young people perceive it. We also want to include people who are not very into very scientific backgrounds, so people who are maybe more into humanities, so law or economy. And we also have a very specific thematic group directed to this group. Then we also have people focusing, of course, on social aspect, because we cannot talk about just transition and energy transition without people at the center. So we'll also have people focusing on people, on citizens, on inhabitants, but also on young people. So what is the role of young people? And in my opinion, the role of young people in case of energy transition is crucial. And I'm very happy that both we as young people and also decision makers have finally realized that it's necessary to actually involve us in this process, in the process of just transition, and how to achieve that. And I'm happy that we have the opportunity as the Polish Youth Climate Council to actually work on the consultation, to provide decision makers with a very concrete plan, because even though we will be working on 8 different thematic groups, and then we'll develop our different skills and we'll develop different ideas and how it can be achieved, we want to like produce a very concrete set of maybe proposals, maybe ideas, maybe solutions, why it's not ambitious enough, and how changed. Something's happening here, but sorry for this disturbance. Also another thing is how we can do it and how we can make decision makers actually listen to us, because it's very easy to produce something. It's very easy to create a very concrete plan, but then they can easily say, okay, it's very ambitious, but it's not realistic. So the very important point of this consultation process is the fact that it will be very concrete, but it will be very ambitious at the same time, and at the same time again it will be very realistic. So we are basing everything on Polish ground. We are basing everything in European realities. So what can be achieved with our background, with Polish background, for example, as well, as we are based fully on coal, almost fully on coal, how we can do it and how we can achieve different ambitious goals while we are not developing nuclear energy yet. So it's very important to take into account, and it's very important also to make sure that young people are aware of these obstacles and challenges, because we can hear that, okay, young people want to have net zero emissions next year, but that's not true. We are aware of different background issues, we are aware of different challenges, and I'm sure that with this consultation process we can show decision makers that we are ready to do it. And of course, how to advocate for the energy transition, as the title says. I really think, just to sum up my presentation about this consultation, I think that we really have to show decision makers that we are ready to provide ambitious goals, but we are also based in a very realistic set of environment, and we are not saying, okay guys, you have to do this and this and this, but we are ready for cooperation. We are ready for providing various feedback, but we are also willing to get feedback. We are also willing to be experts in the field, because I'm 22, so I'm sure that I don't know everything that I should yet. I'm sure that I'm not an expert yet, but that's why I'm here, that's why I'm learning, that's why I'm working with other people, with other young people, but I'm also reaching out to decision makers, to experts, to make sure that they can provide us with information that is necessary to actually meaningfully involve in the whole process.
Thank you very much, Katarzyna. It's and what you're doing with the. You mentioned how that you want to keep your goals ambitious but also realistic. Now, as the Polish youth fully, engage policy advocacy regarding clean transition, as you mentioned, you want to, you've gathered some number of people. You have 80 people now, if I heard correctly. But now, how can those people now? How are you engaging, meaningfully in policy advocacy there in Poland?
Yeah, thank you for this question. So we have this project focusing on, as I said, on consultation, but on daily basis, as the Youth Climate Council, we are actually working with the ministry on various legislations and various acts. So the project is one of the different projects that we are doing, but yet I think it's one of the most important ones, because as the advisory body, I really believe that we should provide the decision makers with concrete and ambitious ideas, but on the same time, on daily basis, we should keep the cooperation going, and we should make sure that our voice is represented there, not only in a given topic or in a given project, but also is represented in towards various legislations. So as the Youth Climate Council, we are, I think, very meaningfully engaging in the various processes. First of all, in legislation. So whenever the Ministry of Climate and Environment is undergoing any, is organizing any project or program, or is creating a new legislation, we also have the opportunity to give our feedback at the same time when the other ministries do. So I think it's a very huge upgrade for young people and for youth participation in general, because normally youth just could take part in public open consultations whenever the act was already done, and the feedback could be very limited, while now it's very well visible that whenever the ministry issues something, they let us know. They said, okay, there's a legislation. It's focusing on this and this and this. And of course, we can engage, but we can also not. So if we know that this topic is very specific, or it doesn't actually affect young people, or we as young people cannot really impact that in any way, or we don't have capacity or skills to give the feedback that we would like to give, we of course can let it go and say, okay, we will not involve in this legislation process. But I really think that the majority of different legislations, whenever they are being created and when they are being passed, you can see that our Youth Climate Council is actually very eagerly involved. So in the Youth Climate Council, currently we have 29 people. So as of course you correctly said, there are 80 people working on consultations, but on daily basis, there are 29 young people who are working in the Youth Climate Council. And among them, there are a few already who are working in the energy sector as youth specialists. So we have students from various fields and various backgrounds, but we also have specific experts who are ready to provide feedback from their experience already. So in Poland, we have this very interesting program focusing, it's called Clean Energy Program. And families can apply to get a grant or a fund to actually change their heating system towards a more clean one. And over the years, it has a very clear set of information. You can modify that. And as the Polish Youth Climate Council, we also provided different solutions how to improve that, and also how to include young people in the process. Because of course, family applies. So very often it's the families, so parents, and they are making decisions towards the heating system. Very often it's not the 14 or 15-year-old in the house. But as the Youth Climate Council, we think that if we engage young people in the whole promotion sector, so if the communication focuses on young people, saying, guys, you are going on various strikes, you see Greta Thunberg marching towards streets, and you know that the energy transition is necessary. So maybe the first thing that you should do is actually contacting your local environment, and in this sense, it's of course your parents. So if young people would go to their parents saying, okay, I love you so much and I love my planet so much, maybe it's time to change something in our very close environment, and maybe this is actually energy heating system at home. And then if we start with young people, I really think that they are change makers, so they can change the whole society. So very easy, we can impact our community, we can impact our country. And as the Polish Youth Climate Council, we of course made the suggestions in this legislation process. So we are making some changes in a very specific legislation sense. So how to improve various legislations from energy transition point of view, but also we are making these changes regarding youth. So when we see a space where youth could meaningfully engage, we are using our potential fully. If we see the space where young people can be change makers, we are doing that as well, because we know that we have to work on two levels, let's say parallel, very parallel. One is very scientific as experts, and one is as youth. So making sure that the potential of young people who are not experts in energy field is also fulfilled, because you cannot really say that everybody is an expert in energy field, and of course they are not, but as young people they are experts in youth field. There are no people who would be better experts than we are, and we have to use this potential, and also we have to encourage young people that they have power to do so. So it's not only about people who are very courageous, easygoing and open, it's about young people who are also shy, who maybe don't know yet that their skills or capacity is so great. So as Polish Youth Climate Council, we are also encouraging them to show them that advocating for energy transition is not only about reaching out to governments, it's not only about engaging in SDG 7 field, in SDG 13 field, in UNFCCC, IRENA, and different various groups. It's not about that. Of course, it's about that in one sense, but it's also about being an advocate in your local environment. And I think for the start is enough, because you are making a change, and we need this systemic change, but it has to start with our local environment as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I definitely like the way you said it. The energy transition involves everyone, whether you're a scientist or not, whether you're social, young, but now the youth, everyone has to get involved in it. It's not like you're leaving it to those who study energy or involved in energy to do it, but I like the way you're involving everyone regardless of their background. For those who just joined, to remind you that we're in a workshop, Policy Advocacy for the Clean Energy Transition, and we have on set Katarzyna Smętek. We encourage everyone. I see we have people from Nigeria. Good to have you. We encourage everyone that you have Myanmar. Good to have you here. We encourage that if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box, and we're going to get to it. Definitely going to get to it. There's another question. Briefly touched on it on the importance of the youth involvement in policy advocacy for clean transition. But I'd like to draw now from experience, like what are some of the impacts you've made in Poland that you could share?
Yeah, thank you very much. In case of this, like including young people and also making a difference in this sense, I think that of course the project of consultation that I briefly touched already, but I think that as the Polish Youth Climate Council, I think that's one of our main achievements also in legislation field and advocacy, is that we are providing very concrete solutions to various legislations. So apart from the clean energy sector and program that I also focused on before, there has been a different program focusing on how young people, maybe not only young people, but the ministry has been working with other ministries as well on improving mobility sector. So how cars can develop in a sense that they will be a part of energy transition, and then can be up to date in 2050, 2040, when we will be making the most important decisions and we will have to achieve the ambitious goals that we are setting now. And as the Youth Climate Council, we also proposed that we have to include young people again as the, let's say, wisdom of change or change makers. Because we, for example, in Poland, when you're 18 or 19, there is a very current and active trend that you have to have a driving license, that you have to pass a driving license, and as soon as possible you should actually get a car, of course diesel or any other, the most polluting ones, and drive it around Poland. And the Youth Climate Council in Poland, we were advocating for including because we know that we cannot change the trend yet, but we can change the mindset, and the mindset will change the trend in a time. So we propose that there will be driving lessons among the driving license tests that you have to do on electric cars, because of course it can be easy, but when you show young people that it's possible to have an alternative, it's possible to also apply your lifestyle to energy transition, you can also change it with yourself. So it's not only that you're holding the decision makers accountable, but you have to make this change with yourself as well, because it will change the whole trend. So as the Youth Climate Council, we propose, for example, such ideas, and I'm really happy to see that they are accepted, and very often, of course, they are being debated upon with different ministries. They are being maybe sometimes even criticized, or there is a very critical feedback. But I really think that as many ideas that we'll have, as many various solutions that we'll provide, will make us more open and more critical to ourselves as well, and will create very realistic solutions. So in terms of your question, so what is the role of young people in achieving energy transition in a just way? I think that, of course, it should start with firstly decision makers who are making the system change, because that's them who will be making the changes. But also, as you said, young people are at the center. So I think that, for example, as Poland is based on coal, we should also focus on the future. So how the future will impact the energy transition. Currently, there are young people who are being sent to universities to study, for example, coal engineering. And as much as it is important now, because Poland is still based on coal, we have to make sure that the young people are also aware that in 5, 10, 15 years, they won't find a job in Poland because coal mines will be closed, and energy and coal engineering sector will be actually very limited in a sense of jobs. So how we can make sure that young people will have the desired jobs that they are choosing the curricula because of now, how we can make sure that they are aware that the energy transition will focus on reducing the amount of coal in our energy mix, not keeping that, and energy and coal engineers will not be as needed as they are now. How we can make sure that young people are aware what will happen. And I think it's very important that when we are discussing just transition and energy transition in general, we have to include young people, because we cannot just discuss energy transition and the involvement of people in general in terms of various interest groups, in various business groups, also political groups, because they have power. We also have to include the young people who are advocating for that so much, because it will be them who will make these decisions soon, but not only about decisions, they will live in the world that they are creating now. So I cannot really imagine how the world will be just in 20 years if the people who will be at its center, so us young people, won't be engaged now. So it's also about focusing now, and it's also about not giving up your energy, your willingness to actually involve in the sector, your willingness to actually provide feedback, and even though if you are not listened to, because it often happens in case of young people, and we also have to be very honest with ourselves, that it won't be always very easy, and it won't be always that, okay, decision makers just listen to me and it's amazing and they will make the change. Very often you will have to repeat your arguments, your solutions quite a few times in order to make them actually listen to you and implement your solutions. But I really believe that one day they will realize that the potential is there, and maybe with some adjustments they can take our opinions and solutions forward, and we can be at the center. And once they realize that, I think that there is a huge potential in also collaboration towards energy transition, because advocacy, for me, it's mostly about cooperation. So providing your feedback, but also waiting for the feedback of others. So making sure that you are based on realistic goals, but you have to be very ambitious, because who should be ambitious if that's not us young people? I think that's the only way.
Thank you very much, Katarzyna. Sorry, I had some technical difficulties lately.
I just wanted to highlight that there are some other potentially participants who may want to jump in and share their opinions or experiences from their country. So if there is anyone who would like to speak and share their experience, we can bring them up to the floor and let them speak. So they can indicate this in the chat, and then you can choose them and we'll bring them to the floor. Or we can bring up any of the people who ask questions in the Q&A.
Okay, Mr. Ade from Nigeria has a question. Okay, while wait for.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Amadoke. I'm joining from Nigeria. Yeah, I must say that Katarzyna, You have been doing great work in your country, and I'm very, very impressed. And I would like to follow your footsteps to make something here in my country also, because Nigeria is an oil producing country, and then it is very difficult to tilt the economy towards the energy transition. Even though we signed the Paris Convention to cut down carbon emissions by 2030. Now Europe has the 2050 plan, but I think nothing much has been done to achieve that goal. So the question I have for you is that how did you start this advocacy in Poland? And then is there a template you can give that one can follow in a country such as Nigeria, where we are the largest oil producing country in Africa, and then it might be very difficult to move towards renewables. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very important question as well in regards to capacity building, because if one country could have succeeded in advocacy, it's possible to get it on the ground somewhere else. It may sound very easy when I'm talking about advocacy for energy transition, but reality is always different. I think that it may be challenging in a sense. So in case of Poland, we are also based on fossil fuels. We are based on coal. We are extracting coal all the time. We are also importing, exporting various fossil fuels. So it has all been very challenging as well for us because changing the mindset is difficult. So how it started. Throughout different international events and conferences, we realized that there hasn't been any group that would be gathering and focusing on young people in Poland in a very systemic way and institutionalized way. So we proposed the idea of creation the Youth Climate Council to the ministry. We proposed to have young people working with the ministry to make sure that this advocacy is there on daily basis. So as I said, of course, there is this project of consultations that is now ongoing, and the result will be published in October. But on daily basis, we are doing different projects. We are advocating for energy transition every single day and working with the ministry. Over the year, we work with the ministry how to establish the Youth Climate Council, how to make sure that the council is efficient and working and is actually being representative in terms of young people. So the different youth groups are being represented, and that different goals and ambition plans are also represented in case of the advocacy for the energy transition. And after the year, the ministry has finally initiated the creation, and in September last year such body was created, and we are working now for almost a year, so from September last year till now, and that's how it works from this very theoretical point of view for capacity building. But in case of Nigeria, I know that also I have some colleagues from Nigeria, and I know that they are also working on establishment of the Youth Climate Council in Nigeria, and how to work with decision makers, because I know that young people have a link already with decision makers in the field of energy and climate, but I know that they also want to create a structure how to make sure that this advocacy is not from one event to another, or is very let's say random, but it's there and it can have a different impact. Because of course you can have some cooperation with the government and that's all, but if you are working stably, cooperating and showing them, even though very often you may not agree with some plans, and you just said yourself that Europe has a very ambitious goal but is not doing enough, and I personally agree, and I think that any member state of the EU is doing enough now to achieve the 2050 ambitious goals, and I agree with that. And I know that if it wasn't for young people in different countries, I'm sure that these goals won't be achieved. But I also have this inner belief that once we are there, and once we are pushing from the inside, let's say, it will be easier to make this difference, and it will be easier to keep this advocacy also ongoing, because it's also important that young people are seen as experts, that they are not only there if it's convenient for them, but they are there if they have other obligations like education, like work, and then they can combine their involvement and engagement in the field of energy and climate with other obligations that they have. And I think it's our superpower as young people to actually go to the ministry and say, that's even though we are working so hard on other issues as well, we have the time to fight for the climate and for the planet, because we think that is relevant and is necessary now. So that's how it started. In the example of Nigeria, I know that some work has been done already. We can also connect. You can message me. I can give you the contact to the person that I know that is working on this structure, and I'm sure he will be happy to also assist you with more information.
All right, thank you very much, Katarzyna. You're doing a good job. Thank you very much. That'll be all for now.
Thank you very much, sir, for your. Yes, we have another one from Oladayo. Oladayo, would you want to ask a question?
No, really. I came late. I want to have the background. Like I had Smack speaking that there are some works going on in Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria, and quite well the government are trying to, even the UN spokesman, Mrs. Segumbi, which I know is trying to make things work when it comes to energy and action, where they meet. And quite well, the faces are changing. The demands in Nigeria compared to the past, what we have now. Anybody inclined to energy issues in Nigeria, we know that things are actually moving from the old scenario. So not really a question, but I like what I met, and I quite agree with her that Nigeria is at least moving forward when it comes to energy, renewable actions, and stuff. Thank you very much.
Sir, for sharing your insights. There's a question that was asked in the chat box. It said how to do concretely when government is deaf and blind to our energy advocacy.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and that's challenging. And again, from my intervention and presentation, you might think that again in Poland it's very, very easy, that you actually propose something and the government accepts that. But it's of course in reality is challenging as well. And how you can advocacy, as I said, first of all, don't give up when they say no. So can happen, and it will happen for sure, even though the government may be in line with your ideas. So even if they agree with you, then they can actually say no because of various interests and various specific political goals that have to be achieved now. So first of all, don't give up, because I think it's easy to discourage somebody, and I have experienced that myself. So even though we are working so hard and we are providing various solutions, it can happen that your idea will be demolished because they said, okay, it's impossible, because we are living in this and this reality. So first of all, don't give up. The second one, I think, show yourself as an expert. So don't show that you are not prepared. Don't show that you have some doubts about yourself. Of course, it's sure that you have to develop because you're a young person. But I really think that we shouldn't be judged by our age and then by our experience, because we cannot really compare to energy experts who are working in the field for 30 years. They are 50 or 60. They have been there the whole life. They've seen the transformation from various energy fields, from various political fields as well, and they know it from the inside. And then here we come, very often studying or not studying yet, and we cannot really be compared with them. We have to show the decision makers that even though we don't have this capacity in this very often knowledge sense, even though I don't agree with that, I think our wide knowledge is a very broad spectrum, and we can provide them with various information that maybe they don't think about. But we can be seen, if they are thinking that we don't have enough experience on knowledge, we can show them that what we have is a perspective that they don't have, because very often they may live in a bubble, in a very political bubble, as you said, the government, for example. So once they work on various legislations and ideas, the bubble is being created. They think that everything is working and the society will listen or not, and they are considering only like political or economic benefits. But then here comes youth, and here comes the innovation, here comes a new perspective, and here comes also our energy. So they also need us, in a sense, to make sure that the society needs them and needs us. So even though the government may be not in line for advocating for youth involvement in energy transition, or even not in line in advocacy for the energy transition in general, because it can also happen, there are various countries who still don't want to set the date for neutral carbon neutrality, or they don't want to set net zero emission goals yet, including Poland. Poland is one of such countries. We don't have yet a date for energy, for climate neutrality, and we don't have a certain date for net zero emission. So you can see that even though there is no specific date yet, young people are pushing towards it. We are organizing various events, and we are showing the decision makers that even though maybe sometimes they don't have the specialized ideas yet on their side, civil society, including young people, already have a plan, and we are ready to implement it, and we want to do it in a cooperative way. So I think that all these ideas and tips can be beneficial, and that's how I work as well. So even though I may be discouraged by some people, some groups, maybe some actors also in this political field, you also have to remember to stay you, to stay young people, not to make sure that you are a 50-year-old expert now, pretend that you are old, pretend that you have all this knowledge in yourself, that you have all this experience. There are people among us, among young people, who of course are very knowledgeable. They have a lot of skills, they have a lot of experience, but we cannot leave our energy behind. We cannot say that, of course, once I'm working with very important decision makers or politicians, now I have to be one of them. But please don't do it. Please stay yourself. Please just keep your energy and stay innovative, because it's easy to be politician, but it's very, very difficult to be innovative. And once you are a politician, I think that you are losing this innovative sense as well.
Thank you very much, Katarzyna. We have a speaker on the set. Marwat, do you want to ask a question or share some insights? You can unmute yourself and David, you can also ask a question.
Thank you very much for. I'm from Uganda, project manager at Rise Up Movement. What I wanted to ask, how do you make sure that there is women inclusion in energy advocacy and policy making? Because with the projects that we are working with, we try as much as possible to have women included, because we find that they are the household energy managers at these community levels. So maybe I can learn something from you, how you get that women inclusion into energy transition at your side of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies. I think it's a crucial question also for me as a young woman, and feeling that very often not only we are discouraged by age, as I said already, but we are also being discouraged because you see only men in very important suits at different conferences, different panel discussions, and they are the experts. So in Poland, we also have this problem that very often during various panel discussions or legislation processes, you see that men is dominated by men, it's dominated by manpower and saying that they are experts in the field, because as I said, Poland is based on coal, so in your mindset you associate coal miners and coal energy sector with male, and I think it's very wrong. And as the Polish Youth Climate Council, we actually see the inclusion of women very clearly, and we promote it as much as we can. So for example, during today's Vienna Energy Forum, there will be 2 women from Polish Youth Climate Council that will participate. It will be the vice president of the council and myself. We are both young women, so we can also see that this change is visible. But how we can advocacy for women, also women inclusion, what we are doing is first of all encourage young women to apply. So as Thomas and I already mentioned, the consultations that we are working on, I think that's crucial, that we didn't really look at any sense of regulations when we were accepting people to join the consultations. So they could be any age, of course, in a sense of youth, because we wanted to make it youth based. So they just had to be youth, but we didn't pay any attention if they are women, men, if they are non-binary or any other gender that they could have identified with. We didn't look at the experience. We wanted to have people from various backgrounds. And in case of women inclusion, we always try to make everything gender balanced. But if it's not possible to keep a gender balance, because, for example, of various logistical issues or time management or any other challenges that may occur, we are always doing that on the preference of women. So if we cannot do gender balance, and for example, we would have 3 women and 1 male moderator, we would keep it. But if it would be the same situation with men, so there will be 3 male moderators and 1 female, we wouldn't keep this panel. We would actually make everything that we can to make sure that women are there, because we think that over the years men could have a lot of opportunities to actually speak up, show their experience, and advocate for the energy transition, and we are forgetting about youth voices and women voices. So as the Youth Climate Council in Poland, we are always making sure that there are youth representative, of course, in all these discussions that we are organizing, but we are also making sure that there is that's called positive discrimination. So we are making sure that women are there and they can share their voices with us, because we sit on the professional level. So if there are, for example, energy panel discussions, there are only men. So we know that we have to change this image, and we have to make sure that it's women dominated in case of youth advocacy for the energy transition. And that's what we are doing in Polish Youth Climate Council. We are also seeing that in terms of even the organization of our council, we see more young women involved than men. We see them more motivated. We see them more happy to share their insights. And we also realize that even though, as we also described, even though they may not be from the energy sector itself, they are involved in, for example, humanities, so law or economy or inclusion in general. We see them more motivated to share their insight, even though they may not have, specific experience, but they know that they have to keep sharing their voices with us as young women, because it's important to have their opinions included. And I think it's also important to the previous question, so how we can do it in terms of this cooperation with government that don't want to cooperate with us. Again, just show them that you have the ideas and they are also involving young women. So thank you very much for this question, and also the previous one, because I think they are very interconnected and it's important to focus on them as well.
Thank you very much, Katarzyna and Davis, for your input. There's another question you have in the chat box. It says, how do you avoid conflict of interest given the council is dependent on the government?
Yes, so the council has been actually chosen and accepted by the government itself. And very often among our organization, we have issues that, or ideas that are very contradictory to the government's line. So even though we have been chosen by the government after the application process, we see that the government is doing something wrong. We are ready to say that it's wrong. And I think that our position is also very interesting because we can actually get upon it in a very, maybe that's private is not a good word, but in a professional, private way. So it's among Youth Climate Council and the ministry. So when we see that the government is doing something wrong, they are making some wrong decisions, or there are programs that are actually not in line with climate ambitious goals, and they are not in line with either UNFCCC ideas and solutions, if they are not in line with European Commission's goals, we can bring it up. And we are doing that in our professional capacity. Important fact is that we have people, of course, in the Youth Climate Council connected somehow with the government itself, also in their personal standpoints or the even professional capacity. But we have people who are also part of other political parties. So it's also very important that we have this multi-dimensional council. So for example, I'm a non-party person there, so I'm not involved neither in the government sector nor with any other in any other political party. I'm representative of non-governmental world in the council. I'm a youth representative from the civil society. But we have people who are, of course, for example, also not in line with the government because they are supporting other political parties actively because they are the members or active coordinators of given projects there. And then how we can avoid conflict of interest. I think what we do, we base everything on consensus. So whenever we are making any decision, we want to make it as unitary as possible. So bringing up all the voices, bringing up all the ideas and opinions, and sharing why a given person supports them despite their political beliefs. So we want to keep our political alliance or like assignments apart, but in the council we are representing ourselves. We are saying I'm supporting net zero emission goal by 2050 because blah 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 blah. And we don't want to say I'm supporting that because my party says so, or I'm not supporting that because I know that I support government and they won't do it because of political, background. But I think that's the conflict of interest that could have happened if we actually base it on political sense. But on daily basis, we try to make everything on consensus. We try to discuss it as much as possible. Of course, it's very time consuming, and to reach some decisions, it may be very difficult because some people may be very against that. But I think it also teaches us how to be better citizens as well, how to listen to different ideas, but also how difficult this energy transition is, because we may have different beliefs, we may have different ideas, but what is not undeniable is the energy transition that we have to conduct, and we have to make it as soon as possible. So conflict of interest happens very often, but then we also have the team, so like the board of the Polish Youth Climate Council, that actually challenges the members to make sure that it doesn't occur, and if it does occur, the board of course try to resolve that as soon as possible. We try to talk with the members to make sure that they don't show their political alliances and they don't show it also among various projects, and the conflict of interest can be also very easily abolished when you are working with other societies. So even though we have 29 young people in the council, we are working all the time with people outside the council. So in the case of consultations, we have 80 young people who are working with us. When we were meeting with the president of Poland, we also conducted consultation process. We gathered more than 100 young people to share voices with us. So very often we are just moderating or facilitating the discussion. We are bringing voices to us. So we are making this platform between the decision makers and young people, and vice versa. So when young people have something to share with decision makers, we just pass it along. We facilitate this discussion. So the conflict of interest can be very easily decreased when we are working also with other people. So we are sure that we are not representing only our point of view, even though we have been chosen by the government, but we are representing other voices. And I think it's amazing. And I think just to finish up, I think that being transparent as much as possible is crucial, because as you said, we have been chosen by the government, but we have different groups in our Youth Climate Council. So first of all, we have to show that there are various political beliefs within the council and all of them are represented, but on the other hand, being transparent with who we are working with. So you can be working with the government because it's necessary to make the system change, to meaningfully advocate for the energy transition, but you cannot do it with the support of young people and in a very transparent way. You have to cooperate with them. You have to show that it looks like this, and these are challenges that we have to overcome, and we have to do it together. So I think there are a lot of different opportunities to actually decrease this conflict of interest. But again, for other people who would like to develop the advocacy for the energy transition, who would just try that out and who would like to start it over, I think it's very important to know that the conflict of interest can occur, that there can be confusion, but the most important part is to be transparent and make sure that the most important goal that you have is actually this advocacy. It's not about political achievement and goals. It's about advocacy for the energy transition. It's about making goals ambitious, not about achieving some political goals or set of values.
Thank you very much for elaborate answer. We're reaching the end of our session today. I'll give a wrap up of what was discussed. We talked about the youth having ambitious but also realistic goals, and also the importance of cooperation between the government and different bodies, ministerial bodies, and also to have the youth involved regardless of their backgrounds, whether they're scientific, social, or because the young people, they are the ones who know what being a youth means. So they are the ones that are suited for advocacy when it comes to clean energy transition. And also the importance that of women inclusion in advocacy, and also when for those that face a rejection to their advocacy, not to give up, show yourself as an expert, but also remain remain the young person. Don't become a political or an expert, because you're better suited to advocate for the youth than if you act as a youth. So with that, you also talked about the importance of capacity building, making sure that young people are represented in the ministry or in other, that because we are learning as much as we're advocating for clean energy transition, but we're also learning, we're young people, so we have some things to learn. So we just have to build our capacity. With that, I'll thank everyone for your questions. I know there are a lot of questions we're not able to answer or pass through this session, but I'll ask Katarzyna if you could share your contacts, maybe email or somehow how they can reach you if they need further insights or answers from you.
much, Thomas, for the moderation, and thank you very much also for the people who joined us and wanted to share the experience with us and also ask questions. I will just type my email address in the chat box, and you can contact me. And it was a pleasure to be here, and I hope that my experience with advocacy for the energy transition will be helpful also for other people in terms of capacity building, because I think that, as I said, if it could have happened in one country and it can be successful and various projects can be happening, I'm sure it can be also successful in other places, and I would be more than happy to assist you with any questions or help that or assistance that I can give you. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much, Katarzyna. So thank you everyone for joining. Katarzyna, I believe you've shared your email. Okay, perfect. All right, we appreciate everyone that came up to ask questions, and also those who shared the question chat box. We thank you for having a really insightful discussion. And yes, we look forward to other workshops and programs we're going to have in the VF. So thank you very much. Have a great day, evening, depending on where you're connecting from. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Thomas, and thank you very much for joining us. Bye.